Not quite sure, but I'm going to have to vote in the Democrat primary, and it will probably be for Duncan.
Okay, there you go.
Because I'm not an extremist.
Start off with that. Thank you, sister. Have a great day. Merry Christmas, Lisa.
Merry Christmas, Shelley.
I love you. I love this show, Magic Mike, because we had Democrats, Republicans, we have moderate Republicans, progressives, anarchists. Everybody listens to this show. So I want to talk about this interview in Vanity Fair with Suzi Wiles. Great call, Lisa, by the way. I found it this morning, and I was just totally engrossed. So first of all, before I get to the actual interview, let me tell you what I think of the interview itself. This was totally, in my humble opinion, this was totally planned, okay? This was totally planned. Suzi Wiles knew what she was doing. She knew what was going to come out of it, and she wanted what came out to be the thing that came out. And the reason why she did this interview, now she did go on record today saying, oh, it was a setup and things were taken out of context, and all of that stuff. She was happy with this interview, trust me. The president was cool with it, right? So she was cool with it. But she knew what she was doing. This was genius. This interview wasn't for Democrats. Clearly, there's no Democrat who hates Trump is always going or is going to change that view, no matter what she says, right? So it wasn't for them. It wasn't for the media, right? And it wasn't necessarily for MAGA. You know who that interview was for? And I know this to be true because it worked. That interview was for the number of coalition members of the Trump coalition, Hispanics, black men, people like me, people who are drifting, people who are unsure, people who are getting highly critical, people who are saying, hey, what's going on here? That interview was for us. It was to get us back on track. And everything she said was designed to get us all back on track. Not MAGA, not the people that will not lead no matter what, and not the Democrats. We don't care about the Democrats. It's to get us, the moderates, the independents, people like me, people who are Trump supporters from 16, 20, and 24, who are getting increasingly antsy is the word I would use. That's who this interview was for. Let me give you some examples. In part 2 of the interview, because I can't find part 1, but in part 2, in part 1 of the interview, January 27, 2025, she helped Trump pick the cabinet. And she says that she calls them a world-class cabinet, better than anything I could have conceived of. Then the writer writes, Trump's cabinet members are either one of the least qualified presidential teams in history or to hear Wiles tell it. Now, you dispense with what he said, right? Because he's editorializing in his own piece he's interviewing her. So throw out what he says. Listen to this. Or to hear Wiles tell it. Disruptors, the only people with the balls to take on the entrenched deep state. See, that's for me. That statement, that line in this long-form interview in 2 parts was for me to make me recognize Pete Hegseth. Oh, yeah. Okay. Cash, Kristi Noem, Pam Bondi. Okay. All right, I get it now. I understand now. Now, whether I agree or disagree, whether I walk away from it feeling, yeah, or I just walk away saying, okay, that's right. Get back on track, Shelley. This is what this interview was for me and people like me who were drifting. We were drifting. Not the hardcore haters, not the never Trumpers, not the ones who even dislike Trump but want to kind of act like they do like Trump. For people like me who have been on board since 2015 and were starting to drift. This is who she's talking to. Yes, she said, oh, it was taken out of context. No, you know what you were doing, lady. It was brilliant. Which is why the president said, yeah, great stuff. Because he knew who this interview was for. This interview was for us. Listen to what in part two, this is one of the big things that I took away from it. She said in part two, I'm going to read from the article. Over lunch in a West Wing corner office, Wiles recounted the morning, escorting Trump from the White House residence to the Oval Office. She gave the president her election predictions. I'm on the hook because he thinks I'm clairvoyant. Wiles thought the GOP had a chance of electing a governor in Jersey, but she knew they were in for a tough night, right? It was a disaster. We all know that. Given voters' anxiety about the cost of living, Wiles told me, listen to this. Wiles told me she thought Trump should pivot more often from world affairs to kitchen table issues. Here's the quote from Suzi Wiles. More talks about the domestic economy and less about Saudi Arabia is probably called for. They like peace in the world, but that's not why he was elected. Boom! Boom, she's talking to me. She's talking to the people that are drifting. Heck, I would dare say in that one sentence, guess who else she's talking to, my friends? The lady that many of you turned your back on. Yes, you're right, MTG. You know why? Because MTG said the exact same thing. Boom! Sorry to yell. It's just I get excited when I see the things that I said, the things that I defended Marjorie Taylor Greene saying and being attacked for, said by the chief of staff, who earlier in the article is said by Marco Rubio, she is not a chief. Most chiefs of staff are one among equals. They said with Suzi Wiles, there was only her and no equals. She said that. Let me repeat it back to you guys who called me Rhino, who said Marjorie Taylor Greene should just leave. She said the exact same thing we said. More talks about the domestic economy and less about Saudi Arabia is probably called for. They like peace in the world, meaning the voters, but that's not why he was elected. We'll come back with more. I'm just feeling myself right now. I'm just feeling myself right now because, this guy at night you will be made to learn knows what he's talking about when he talks politics. And yes, I gloat when I know I'm right and I'm proven correct by the very voices in the White House. We'll be right back. 404-872-0750. 1-800-WSB-TALK. Merry Christmas!